Good morning and welcome to the North Slope Borough Community Health Hour. My name is Olivia Kim, Health Educator for the Prevention Unit. This show is brought to you by the North Slope Borough Health Department. As a disclaimer, this episode discusses substance use and may be triggering for some listeners. This week, we'll be discussing substance use and the recovery journey and share an interview with special guests Charley Maasak and Derrick. Later on in the show, we'll be discussing our borough-wide Ask for Help mental health tour. Substance use is an ongoing challenge here on the North Slope and in the state of Alaska. Substance use disorders represent one of the most significant and preventable health challenges in the United States with major economic and social costs. In Alaska, heavy use of alcohol and drugs has been tied to long-term health problems and broader impacts on families, communities, and the environment. Data from the Alaska Department of Health 2018 show that the alcohol contributed to 7.6% of emergency medical transport statewide. Alcohol and drug misuse are also heavily present in the child welfare and criminal justice systems. Nearly half of children placed outside of their homes were linked to situations involving parental alcohol misuse. And from 2006 to 2016, alcohol was connected to about 18% of criminal convictions. The financial toll is also substantial. A 2019 report estimated that the combined economic burden of alcohol and drug misuse in Alaska exceeds $3.5 billion each year. In 2023, there were 356 recorded drug overdose deaths in the state, which is 44.5% higher than the deaths recorded in 2022. Of all states, Alaska has the highest increase in overdose deaths during that time. 80% of those deaths were caused by opioids, with over 2/3 of those caused by fentanyl. About 60% of deaths are attributed to a combination of drugs. 88.6% of those deaths were accidental, and the majority of victims were male, aged 25 to 54. Methamphetamine, opioids, synthetic opioids like fentanyl, cocaine, and alcohol pose the greatest threats in Alaska. As mentioned previously on the show, these issues can be traced back to a mix of deep layered challenges. Things like historical trauma, being disconnected from culture through colonization, seeing struggles with alcohol and drugs from family members and friends, experiences of violence, and the stress that comes with financial hardship play a big role. Substance use disorders don't just happen for fun. They are usually rooted in deeper issues. When one person struggles with substance use, it touches entire families and the entire community as well. And while we might not have every solution to fix the root causes, we do know one thing. We can't heal if we keep quiet, and we can't heal if we try to do it alone. That's why prevention matters so much. It shows up in the everyday things: getting good sleep, eating nourishing food, moving our bodies, spending time with others, working or doing activities that give us purpose, and making space for rest and enjoyment. These simple choices build a stronger foundation for the mental wellness needed to prevent substance use disorders in the first place. And once again, I'd like to pause and shine a light on culture and community, because they're not just extras, they're at the heart of what keeps us strong. Culture gives us an identity and purpose. Community reminds us that we're part of something bigger. It's about connection to ancestors, to the land, and to a shared sense of belonging. Community is love, trust, and the kind of care and support that shows us we are not alone, that we have what it takes to make it through another challenge, through another day. Traditional practices and knowledge reminds us who we are and gives us the resilience we need to move through hard times. And here's the thing, our mental health isn't only about what happens in our heads. It's about our whole being, our bodies, our emotions, our relationships, our daily lives. It's about the systems around us and the way we uplift each other. To really address something as complex as substance use, we have to look at all of these pieces because they all matter in making us who we are. With that in mind, let's move into the interview portion of this episode. This week we'll be talking with Charley, Maasak, and Derrick Moore. Charley is more than a voice from the North Slope. He is a voice for the North Slope. A 45-year-old Inupiaq father, grandfather, hunter, and fisherman from Nuiqsut, Charley has worked in oil and gas for over 26 years while staying rooted in the land, culture, and values that shaped him. But Charley's deepest work began in August 2021 when he stepped into recovery and into purpose. Today, as a peer support specialist, he helps build and hold space for healing across the North Slope. He speaks truth when others can't or won't, and does so in fluent Inupiaq, breaking silence around trauma, abuse, suicide, and cycles of shame that too often go unspoken in Native communities. Derrick Moore went from star athlete and honor student in East Anchorage to years lost to prison and addiction. Derrick's journey could have ended in tragedy. Instead, he chose transformation. Now, 5.5 years clean and sober, he has risen with purpose, using his voice, story, and platform to inspire change, bring hope, and empower others to break free from addiction. Derrick's mission is clear: to prove that no matter how far you've fallen, you can rise stronger than ever. So can you guys please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, my name is Derrick Moore. I was born and raised in East Anchorage, Alaska. So I'm born and raised Alaskan. And how I find myself in places like the North Slope Borough Conference, Mental Health Conference, and how I found myself in Borough, Alaska now is I began sharing my story about addiction and recovery online. You know, I started with a few basic TikToks, and it really started to take off really quick. And that's how I grew into the business name, the social media tag of Hardaway Learning. So a lot of people know me by Hardaway Learning. I came up with that name because everything I learned the hard way. So quick stat that I throw around if I'm talking to the kids or somebody, you know, I'll give them that. I'll show them the front page of my book. So I'm also an author. And it says 14 years of drug addiction in prison, about 7 total each. So 7 years of addiction, 7 years of prison. That was the part of the hard way of learning. And I learned from that, and now we got 5.5 years sober. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect. My name is Charley Kowalski. I'm born and raised in Nuiqsut, Alaska, and I've been in the oil and gas sector for 26 years. And how I got here is through a maze of addiction and my ways of life that I represented, and decided to make a change that needed to happen through others. They saw something in me that was very destructive, and I needed the help to propel the process of who I am as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And now today I've over just a little over 5 years of sobriety, and just beginning the journey still, and learning and educating myself on speaking publicly about my life, my personal life, the struggles, what it was, what it is, what it was then, and what it is now are two totally different Charlies, and I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for being here and speaking with us today. So September is National Recovery Month, so we're going to talk a little bit about your recovery journey. The first question I'd like to ask is, what was the most challenging part of your recovery journey?
For me, it was definitely the change in your mentality. That's the thing I think people don't really talk about a lot. It's like how it changes you mentally. So that ambition, that pride, the useful elements of your ego, like your confidence, all these things change. So like, you know, certain aspects of like my athletic career, I was really good at sports. So little things that made me good at that or made me charismatic and popular in school, all those things change when you're in addiction. So you're kind of like almost like a lesser version of yourself, but you need to be your best to overcome when you're strong, when your steepest challenges. So it's just a very difficult cycle to break because it changes almost like everything about you,
yeah.
You know. And so that was definitely the hardest part when you sit there and you're trying to muster up some will or some skill or some motivation, but you essentially have lost it all. Like, yeah. It's not the same. You can't tap into your innate characteristics like you once used to be able to, like that ability to figure it out. Those things changed, and I wasn't able to figure it out. I got some luck and figured it out now, though. So, you know,
yeah. So
eventually figured it out.
Yeah. So basically, it's like you're learning how to become a new person.
Yeah. But forcefully. It's not in and oblivious, that you're kind of oblivious to it. You don't realize it, when these little things have changed about you. You still kind of think that you're the same person. The whole time, I mean, we're talking over 10 years, I thought that I would figure it out. I always thought I would find a way to figure it out. Never did, a story I didn't get to tell at the conference was like, I remember before my arrest, where I actually changed my life, like, I remember sitting there, like, thinking, you ain't figuring it out, bro. You ruined your life, man. You're done for, man. Like, and this was 2018. I remember thinking, like, you were wrong about what you thought you were going to figure out, bro.
Yeah.
You're not. So, ended up getting to change my life in prison, but I wouldn't change the story for nothing.
Yeah, the change is, it's probably one of the hardest processes that I've experienced personally, just because it's so different from a lens that you've been looking out of for a long time.
Yeah.
And the challenge, I think, for me was to ultimately make a permanent decision that I knew that I was going to make was ultimately with my friends.
Yeah.
And Derrick spoke very well about this yesterday, that when you are facing the change or the challenge to make a decision, whether you're going to remove somebody permanently for the benefit of who you are becoming, sometimes that has to happen right then and there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it happens on its own with the trajectory that you're going into. So I really appreciate the fact that that through the self-development, this has to happen.
Yeah.
Because you have the mentality, or at least I have the mentality of I have to live this journey. Like, you've been a part of this destruction for a long time, my friend, but I have to go, And so making those decisions in life today are still challenging, and they are going to continue to be challenging. But, through the natural journey of wanting to live this life, it becomes easier as well. But there's still a lot of people out there who respect what I do, or or what have you, and they just kind of naturally remove themselves. But do I want that to happen? Probably not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, respectfully on both sides, we talk about the respect in communities and people and all that. They fully understand. So, and then it's a partnership with an understanding that hey, self-development first.
Yeah. And yesterday, Derrick, you talked about like the 3 P's of personal growth, and it feels like, right, as you are going on this recovery journey, there is the self-development, there's the personal growth that's taking place, which, as you said, it's still challenging every day, but it does make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. It's just the thing about personal growth is it's a future thing, right? So you're moving towards the future.
Yeah.
And some people can't get past the past of like the bridges they burn. I understand that. But one of my biggest strengths was that when I started to feel better and I finally got sober and I was feeling better, I just wanted to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was one of my, people ask me that all the time, like, how do you deal with the shame and grief? And I kind of like, oh, I'm not even thinking about it, dude. Like I'm moving forward. So, but I do have compassion for people that have that shame and that grief, because I do understand,
Yeah.
But one of my biggest strengths is that I really just move forward, whether it's a goal, a purpose, or working on myself personally. And that's what I think it's kind of what's best, like, in my opinion. It worked for me.
Yeah. That's almost like, when you're in addiction or when you're in a state where things are not changing, right? You're kind of just like staying at a constant flat level. And as you talked about, you want to move forward. So you talked a little bit about shame and guilt, and that kind of touches on my next question, which is, how do you deal with shame around addiction and things that happen through addiction?
Well, I think one of the biggest thing is to have an understanding and to keep it simple, because in my addicted mind, I was very good at being a whirlwind of a hurricane and not having that, understanding at all. So dealing with the shame was something that I had to learn how to do, and it's what I'm continuing to learn to do, is to talk about it. And not being ashamed of the things that I've done, to hurt people is something that I have to talk about.
Yeah.
And that keeps me moving forward and being honest about it, and just making sure that, you know, I'm being parallel, I'm being vertical, I'm being, you know, just trending towards the progress of understanding the process is super important for a guy like me moving forward in that. So that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Because very often through this process, you hear others talk about that as well, and it's in everybody.
Yeah.
But to deal with it is to talk about it, to be about it, just to, you know, to understand it is the biggest thing. And when you do get emotional about that process, it's very important to write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the shame and the guilt, you know, like I was saying, it was one of my biggest advantages that during my recovery journey, that I never felt that overwhelming sense of guilt. I do have a couple things working in my advantage. I don't have children.
Yeah.
I've never, you know, had like a family of mine, like a wife and kids. So those are like it was kind of me by myself. So there wasn't really a lot of, when you're hurting people that you love, that's where a lot of people's shame and grief are. And I was kind of isolating myself, kind of in the closet, addict type, just hiding. But you know, everybody's recovery story is different. And like I was saying, my biggest advantage was once I finally got to feel better, like I wasn't looking in the past, like it wasn't bothering. I just wanted to get clean and feel better.
Yeah.
Like my first 2-3 months of sobriety was like the happiest I had ever been in my life. It was like pure. I was like, bro, this is what life's about. And so that was the feeling that, you know, I'm still chasing, and it comes and it goes, and I'm still working toward getting it and sustaining it and things like that. But, you know, that was the feeling I was more enamored with. And it was my steps towards, you know, the future, and starting to work on myself, learning about how to improve myself. That's what I fell in love with. And seeing somebody talking about, I can't remember who it was, maybe Robert Downey Jr. or something, saying that it doesn't bother him either. It was it was who he used to be. And that's how I looked at it. Like, you know, and it just, shame and guilt, as far as my recovery journey has gone, it hasn't been a big issue for me, which is just different for everybody. Everybody's different, is going to feel it in a different way. I will say the one thing that kind of gets me is I work a lot with kids. I work a lot with organizations, really stand-up organizations, and you know, there's no victimless crime. So I have a past of, my past was not pretty. So that's still kind of gets me a little bit. You know, I kind of sometimes feel like, you know, that hasn't fully left, that guilt from, there's just no victimless crimes, and it took me a long time to realize that. Pretty much now is when I look back and realize, like, damn, that was a tough part, because your addiction is yours, really.
Yeah.
But the crimes affect more than just yourself. So I do have shame when it comes to that, but with the addiction, I've been able to put it in the past.
I think it's important, right, that you said that everyone's journey is different.
Yeah.
The emotions that you feel, the things that you go through, the things that happen are also different and individual. But I think shame and guilt is a really important thing to touch on, because there's shame not just around addiction. As you said, there's shame around kind of your relationships that happen in addiction, but there's also shame when it comes to like depression or anxiety, you know, or other like traumatic things that happen to people. And I think it's really easy to internalize what happens and say, like, it's my fault, you know. And so I think it's really important to talk about shame, and to just let people know that there's a way to move past it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not part of my recovery journey, but it's very, very common.
Yeah.
And that's why you see people that come up to me and they say, bro, you're so brave, like, I can't believe you're talking about it, and I, like, online. And people perceive it as like courageous, and I just never thought nothing of it. But then I see what they're saying. It's like, bro, I could never, man. Like, and I understand that. That was, you know, I was living a lie for a long time, so it wasn't something I would admit, you know, 8 years ago or 10 years ago. I wouldn't admit what I went through, but the getting past it part was the most important for me, and then I felt better.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question is, can you talk a little bit about emotions and feeling your emotions and what role that plays in addiction and recovery?
Yeah, the emotion part is it's very empowering on many levels. It's something that I am in process of learning still, and it's something that I will continue to learn. Once I really started writing down the true feeling that I was feeling, that was empowering to myself. I needed to understand that. I needed to, like, it went so far into it that I was having feelings charts and just all this different stuff on both, you know, in my addiction, active addiction, and like kind of coming out of that fogginess and coming into clarity and then coming into my journey. I still use the same platforms and continue to look for new platforms on, you know, just to feed the true feeling and the emotional part of it. So I'm able to look in the mirror today and tell myself that I love myself. That's the emotional side, you know, which I've never done before, and what a change in perspective of who I actually am becoming. And, you know, I definitely appreciate myself today. I can love others. I can put myself in other people's shoes, you know, and that's the biggest thing. It's like, I never really cared. But today, having that microscope or being able to see it from up close or up, you know, farther back is it's a pretty amazing feeling on both sides, both in, you know, kind of the addicted mind and, you know, I'm going to be an addict for the rest of my life, and I understand that. But to have an understanding, just a basic understanding of the true emotion and the feeling which are two totally different things, but they you know, they go hand in hand with each other. So I would say that, you know, me breaking down in some areas of my journey is important for myself, just kind of spiritually and mentally and physically, to get emotional and to understand the feeling. And when I write things down, I put feelings words in there to get that emotion, you know, because it makes sense to me. And, you know, my counselors and my peers and these people ask me, they're like, hey, when you write things down, what do you write down? I'm like, I make sure that I put feeling words in there and I understand the feeling word and stuff like that. So that's what I do.
Yeah, thank you for that. I wanted to say something, but I'll just let you answer because I forgot what I was
The
gonna
emotion.
say.
So the emotion, it's definitely very important, and really learning how to manage them and control them and be able to dwell in, I call it reinforcing, like dwell in the positive emotions as much as you possibly can. What we do sometimes is we're like negative, sometimes, at least I was. A lot of people are like this. You're kind of negatively biased. So you're thinking of your problems or why is this going? Why is this happening? This ain't how it's supposed to feel. Like you're looking for the negative, but there's a lot of other positive things that are happening in your life, and you have to kind of train yourself to see them. And it was a very eye-opening practice when I read it in one of those first 5 books I was reading. They were like, practice noticing the good. So I would go practice like, oh, that's a pretty bird. And it seems so like, oh, that's a beautiful sky. That's a nice looking flower. It seems so corny. Like it seems so like pedestrian or just regular, but I was training myself to see the good in things. And this is something, and then when you get to experience the good, you have to be able to reinforce that feeling. And like he was saying about the writing, like this was something that I was doing, that I came across when I picked up my journaling habit. Like I would have a good moment or a good day, and then I would go reinforce it in the journal. This was early recovery too, and I would just be sitting there, man, I can't believe I'm feeling this good. This was such a good day. And it was like reinforcing that positive emotion, and that's one of the most beneficial practices I ever came across. But as far as emotions in general, you know, it's very, one of the tallest tasks you're going to have in sobriety, because you're going to be feeling so many emotions, is managing those negative emotions. That's going to be one of the day-to-day, you know, week-to-week, monthly things that you're going to have to be able to do and work on, because you can be good for a month, and then they'll hit you that second month, and you'll feel, man, I was just good last month. It's one of those things. You got to be able to discipline your mind and be able to tell the difference between the negative and the positive.
Yeah. And I think a couple of important things to touch on, right? Like writing is a really, really great tool.
Yeah.
I 100% agree that writing about your emotions, writing about your feelings is so powerful and can make a huge difference. Also, the fact that you said, like you have to practice, you have to train yourself to see the good sometimes. Yeah. And during the conference, we heard a statistic, I think it was that in 1 minute, we're going to have 60,000 thoughts, and 90% of those are going to be negative, and 80% of those are going to be repetitive negative thoughts. Right? So, and that's like subconsciously wired in your brain and in your body. And so you really have to develop the practice of being like, okay, there is good in the world. There's good about myself. And, I just want to applaud both of you guys, because I know what it's like to go from a place of like, I hate myself, I hate everything in the world, to get to a place where I love myself and realize one day that actually the majority of my thoughts are not as bad as they used to be. And I actually think good things about myself. And I just understand how difficult of a process that is, how long that takes. So I just want to applaud you guys on that. I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
My next question is, what roles do self-love and forgiveness play in recovery?
And they play huge roles. Self-love and forgiveness. For me, self-love was one of the bigger ones. And you guys heard my story about, I don't know if you got to hear the keynote when I mentioned I witnessed one of my close friends dying in the hotel with me. And that happened at age 23. And so we moved forward all the way to about age 31, and I'm my first few weeks of sobriety. And this is when I got into the journaling habit. And I remember writing down in the journal, and because I was in the residential treatment unit in prison, and they had a prompt of like forgiving yourself. And then that was the topic that I actually chose, right? And I decided to, drop the trauma and move forward. This is very early on my journaling experience. And I, at the end of it, I told myself, like, writing to myself, bro, you deserve to be happy and have a beautiful life, right? And I started crying. And I never told myself that ever since after that incident. I always felt guilty. I felt almost survivor's remorse a little bit, because he was more of a family man. I was more of a street criminal. So I always felt kind of bad that our lives kind of intertwined like that for one night. And, he ended up losing his life. I always felt it should have been the other way around. And I carried that baggage a long, long time. And so, I really had to forgive myself for that incident and just actually give myself permission to live, fulfilling life afterwards. And that was probably my most, impactful journal entry I've ever had. And self-love, it's a concept that you have to develop and work on and read about and find different practices. And you have to be diligent about it as well. It has to be a lifestyle, so it's one of those things that, I don't want to sit up here and act like I'm invincible to, feeling some hard emotions sometimes, frustration, anxiety, even have some low moments where I have to find ways to dig myself back out of it. So, self-love is one of those key primary things that you can do a lot with.
Yeah, for me, it's the practicality of it. I have to be very practical and disciplined inside of that self-love and in my journey for a few reasons. I take it very seriously because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I love giving it back. It's simple. Or it may sound simple, but that's the mentality that I have for the self-love portion, being in my journey, and then just pouring it out into the communities, into personal stuff, into just a lot of different things. The adjustment to it is a challenge.
Yeah.
the lifestyle is a challenge of having an understanding of it too, and just living in the journey of that alone it's a challenge. But there's a positive light behind all of that stuff that just drives you, that motivates you, that pushes you to propel just the thought of it. So I definitely appreciate not being hard on myself and being able to appreciate that moment, because like I keep looking back and thinking about looking in the mirror about that self-love, the motivation, the technicality behind all that stuff. It's like how empowering that is. And being able to give all that back is just it's somebody did it for me, so I'm gonna give it back. So.
And it's hard to really like love other people, love other things, I think, if you don't really love yourself. People say that all the time, but I don't think you can really fully understand it until you actually start to develop that sense of like, actually, I love myself, I care about myself. And I want to circle back a little bit because we've been talking about emotions, and you both mentioned how you're not going to be happy all the time. You're not going to love yourself every moment of every day. There's still going to be challenging emotions that come up. And, Derrick, you talked about learning how to manage those negative, challenging emotions. So what are some maybe like tools or tips for someone to manage negative emotions, challenging emotions when they arise?
Mostly right now, my go-to has been breath work. And then this, like, I think Allie was talking a lot about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been struggling with some anxiety lately. I don't know why. I always look at it like a part of the plan, right? Like things are changing for the better, and I'm just trying I'm trying to get ready. So it's not a bad thing. It's just part of being human. And so I'm trying to find ways to deal with it, and just my 30 deep breaths in, active deep breaths, followed by a deep hold one, blow it out. You almost feel like you could feel the anxiety like leave your body.
Yeah. And
I like can feel the absolute difference. Now it's one of those things also that you don't really look forward to doing, right? Because it's like, it makes you sweat and it's active. And so just being disciplined with the breath work and also cold showers have been helping. So I kind of went away from the more intellectual remedies for right now, and I'm trying to focus on the physical ones.
Yes.
That's just how I want to go about it, because I think that right now that's what I need, a physical change. Like Allie was talking about the lymphatic nervous system, or the nervous system.
Yeah.
That's what I'm working on right now. Those are but I go from different tools to different tools. So it'll be a run in the woods, every weekend. It'll be, the fitness doesn't change. It'll be the journal. But right now it's the breath work has been doing a lot for me, and also the cold plunges and cold showers.
Yeah.
Also.
And it's the positive self-talk.
That's the real cure right there.
Yeah, and like being able to change that thought inside of that, it's like when you start experiencing negative things and you're like, whoa, what's going on? I start backing up and like, and trying to trick your mind into thinking positive. Because that positive, thought change is what I was learning inside of my journey, that, is something that I just always just kept going, digging with my shovel. But it's absolutely amazing to challenge myself in the realm of like having that positive self-talk, and being able to identify that. But outside of that, going for a walk, I go outside a lot throughout my day, and just take a deep breath, breathing, doing some kind of, for me, I learned the square breathing technique, and like that really helps me, and just to go outside and just say thank you.
Yes.
It's like, for whatever reason I'm going through it, just thank the position that I'm in, where I'm at, and what I'm doing. And just to look in the horizon, look at the clouds, look at the sun, look at whatever's going on around me, and make sure that I can appreciate that, because there's not everybody in the world can appreciate what I appreciate. And being able to walk outside is a gift. Being able to see, being able to breathe, smell, feel, that is like something that I've never been able to do my entire life. So those are some techniques that I use. I swoop down and grab gravel, and that's something that I do. I want to feel it. I want to feel the authentic version of what we actually drive on, what we walk on.
Yeah.
I'll swoop my hands through the grass just to get that feeling that I don't crave, but I don't like often recognize.
Yeah.
So just kind of drawing back to the beauty of things that through the lens of the journey that you're not used to seeing or you're not used to doing, is important for the cure and the journey that I'm going on.
Yeah, there's like a complete like perspective shift that takes place, right?
Oh yeah, huge.
And I think the feeling aspect is really important, like the physical feeling aspect, because our mental health is not just in our heads, it's also in our bodies, right? We have a mind, but we also have a body, and we need to nurture both things in order to feel balanced, in order to feel like okay.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, but it's hard to actually get the mental health in order when you don't physically feel right either. And that's why I went with the breath work, because I was feeling it a little bit, and that's why I'm going the physical route instead of the the intellectual route. It's just when you feel different, then you're thinking different, right? It's hard to trick your mind. It's harder to, like he was saying, it's a little bit harder to trick your mind when you don't feel the same. And so sometimes you do need a physical change.
Yeah. And I think it's important, as you said, like to touch the ground, to be outside, to find something that's going to ground you into your physical body, into the physical moment. And I think, breath is life. Breath is life. And I think a great thing about breath work is, you talked about anxiety. Anxiety is really in our head, right? It's in our thoughts. It's like it's in our energy. And I think the breath work really helps to bring you into your body, into the moment, get you out of your head, and helps to kind of like clear things up a little bit. So
yeah, for sure.
Okay, so my next question is, I just have a couple more questions, but the next one is, how have your beliefs about let me start over. How have your beliefs about yourself changed throughout your recovery journey? Who did you believe you were during addiction, and who do you believe you are now?
Well, my beliefs now have completely changed from who I thought I was during addiction. Well, it was like a three phase thing, honestly, from like high school to like 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still thought that I would figure it out. I still had this ego. I still had this invincibility mindset that like it didn't matter what hole I dug, I could get myself out of it. And towards the end of my addiction, like literally the last week, I came to the realization that like, dude, like you're not who you thought you were. Like you're this is more powerful than you thought. Like, because it's in a sense every addict's gonna have that like, oh, it won't happen to me mentality, like somewhat. So I had that, and then I came to the realization, and I kind of lost all my confidence. Like, and when I was sitting there 28 with not a single dollar in my pocket, withdrawing, like I realized like, bro, I think you ruined your life. And it kind of took my confidence back. And then when I was able to overcome it and get sober and start working on myself, doing things like getting in shape and learning and feeling better, then, I looked at those trials and tribulations from a different perspective. Like, dang, that was like, bro, you made it through a lot. Like, so, and I always reflect back on that moment when I was sitting there thinking to myself, dude, you're done for. Like, and all I wanted to do was pretty much take my own life. That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't even have the strength to do that. And so I always think about the despair, the despondency, the depression in that moment. And that was the lowest I had ever felt. Mm-hmm. And so the mentality now, how I feel about myself is like no matter how I'm feeling, no matter how bad it gets or whatever, like I know that I have what it takes to overcome anything. And that's my message to everybody. Because I remember sitting there without any skill, discipline, not a smile. I couldn't give you a smile if you asked me. Like, I had no style, no charisma, no swag, nothing. I just wanted to just, not exist.
Yeah.
And I still found my way out of that. That's part of, that's thanks to God giving me that opportunity, and I took advantage of it. Mm-hmm. And so now I know the universe and God work in mysterious ways. There's always a chance. There's always hope. And I fully believe that. And so that's something that is different about myself than it was in the past. Sure.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, during addiction, it's very pressing and very fast, very disturbing, very confusing process. And for me, yesterday, I talked a little bit just about not understanding the I'm done, I want to be done mentality, and which is a scary place to be, because ultimately I'm one of those people that would drive myself into the ground permanently without the understanding of, hey, maybe I should stop, and that was probably one of the light bulb moments for me. That's like, hey, you can't afford to be doing that. You're gonna die. Like, just someday you're just gonna be done, and that's it. So kind of moving past that light bulb and moving into a more healthier lifestyle and a more understanding of, grabbing all the tools and moving forward, and utilizing all the systems and processes and people that I need to use was an experience in itself, which I still use today. And then living the life I live today, I'm super grateful in my personal life that I had the experiences that I have had. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, I've learned so much about, just the process of who I am and what I've done, and it's going to take a lifetime for me to move on in my journey to have an understanding of all of it. And do I need to understand all of it? No. Do I want to understand all of it? There's a certain degree that I do, but I understand that, pumping the brakes every once in a while is good to do. Taking just taking a break from it at times is a good thing to do. But, having that mentality of wanting to better my life and living a better life, living a healthier lifestyle, not only for myself, pours out into my children and just, everybody around me. So I definitely appreciate the positive moments that I have. I appreciate the negative moments that I have. I appreciate the challenging and tribute times that I have. But the one thing that I do talk about is just, when a catastrophic event happens, I'm able to compartmentalize in order to just make sure that I'm okay. Yeah. In order to fill somebody's cup, I got to fill mine first, make sure I'm good, check, go. So, yeah.
I think it's one thing that's coming out for me, right, is that our relationship to ourselves is a lifelong journey. Yeah. And it's always evolving, it's always changing, it's always growing.
Answers.
Okay, so what has been the biggest gift of recovery?
Definitely the purpose, me sharing my story online. And so what that actually does is it gives an avenue for people to give me encouragement or tell me how I've impacted their life. Kind of like virtual hug almost, and it gives me, it's real motivating to me to be able to give back to people in a form that I did not see coming, and then receive love from them. That's the thing I'm most thankful for, is the avenue to receive love. There's so many kids out here that recognize me, oh my God, taking pictures, and that's all because of me finding my purpose through sharing some of my pain, and that led me to a fulfilling purpose. So.
Yeah, and just for me, I want to leave a footprint so big in this world, in this earth, that when I die, at least one person says, you know what, that guy was actually pretty cool. And I'm just going to leave it at that, because it's there's many things that I could do to make an impact on people, or, things that I do, but I'm very proud of just taking that first step, a leap of faith into believing who Charley can actually become, and who I'm becoming is probably the biggest role that I can ever play in my life. And to live that life and understand it, and just be, utilize the people in this journey that are living a fulfilled life, and just live it with purpose, and just like Derrick said, and one foot in front of the other, smile, give back is fun.
It feels like there's a lot of love, right? A lot of love has come from your guys' journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, my final question. What message do you have for someone who wants to get sober but doesn't feel like they can?
Well, the first thing I'd like them to understand is that it is possible. So that just in the very basic fundamental definition of like, if you can or you can't, you actually can. So you have to understand that like first. And what really helps is if, what I like to say is like, I will talk to people in active addiction, right? And it's hard sometimes, to be able to coherence, and whether or not how high they are, how high they're not, it's difficult to talk to them, but sometimes. But what I tell them is, bro, just go home and use your imagination tonight for 20 minutes, wherever you are. Just start thinking of a future outside of addiction. Sometimes when you're in the middle of addiction, you can't see nothing but the plug, the drug dealer, your addict friends, and people are treating you, exactly as what you are, And so the human element kind of gets removed sometimes, and you're stuck in that dark cloud. And I like to start with people to just, if you don't have no effort to go to the gym or read a book or journal, whatever, those things, use your free imagination and start thinking of a life after addiction, of sobriety, with no limitations. Like, bro, do you want a yacht? Do you want to own a huge hilltop house in Anchorage and have a Corvette? Is that what you want? Like, you can have that. And you have to start believing in that before you actually get out into sobriety, because it gives you the ability to have a gravitational pull towards something in the future. And I think that's important, because you get so narrow-minded in addiction. Next high, next crime to get the next high, and it's a revolving door. But vision for sobriety, if anybody's watching that's struggling, do me a favor, just use your imagination for 20 minutes and just think of every single thing that you want in your life in sobriety. And I'm telling you, you'll have a little motivation. And if you keep doing that, it'll be closer. It'll be coming right around the corner, closer than you think.
For me, I'm a living prime example of you are not alone. And I share that a lot. You're not alone. Ask for help. Keep things simple. You're powerful beyond measure, and you matter. These are some things that were welded into my head early in the stages of my journey, and I appreciate that, because I started to tell my story, from people like Derrick, and because they were so honest and so forward moving in their journey, that I'm like, man, I did that too. Like, oh, I did that. Oh man. So then I didn't pick myself apart. I just went for it. And that of course comes with time, effort, determination, and all the fears that are associated with all of it. So, stepping into this journey is by far one of the most challenging things I've done in my life, but the most rewarding things that I've done in my life as well, for many different reasons. My family, financially, stability, understanding, just a bunch of stuff that I can go down, being able to hold the door and help and say please and thank you and yes ma'am and no sir, and being the world's greatest hugger, and just having an understanding of people in general, and being able to greet, and there's no good way to greet other than a handshake or a hug or a smile or hey, good morning. It's huge. It's a big community that we all live in. No matter where you go, it's community. And I always appreciate the fact that when somebody in this world takes that first step, takes that first leap of faith, or wanting to, I use this analogy of like jumping off a cliff, you will get scrapes and bumps and bruises, but as soon as your parachute opens and you start soaring by and people start seeing that, and they feel and they could see, and they could see that. And this past week has been very powerful in a lot of those aspects of like, hey, I'm going to go for the next step. I'm going to start talking. I'm going to go talk to a counselor. I'm going to do that. So those are the type of things that I enjoy hearing, but also sharing your experience, I think is, just empowering, just like Derrick said, and how you do it. There's, is there a correct way? I don't know. But if you have a lived experience and you share that, for somebody who has an understanding or the willingness to move forward, it's amazing. So
well, I just want to say thank you both so much for sharing about your story, being willing to share that with our listeners, and for all of the really powerful and beautiful insights today. Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah,
all thanks for having us.
Thank you, Charley and Derrick, for sharing your story and insights. If you or someone you know is struggling with substance use disorder, please seek help. The Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is available via text and call at 988 24 hours a day. Our North Slope Borough clinicians and counselors are also available to help at 5200 Carlick Street or by phone at 907-852-0366. Remember that you can always reach out to a trusted family member, friend, teacher, coach, or coworker as well. Even if they are not able to help you directly, they may be able to direct you to the proper support. If there's anything from this episode that you'd like to learn more about, or if you have any physical, mental, or emotional health questions that you'd like answered on the show, please reach out to our team by email at nsbhealthpreventionbrw@north-slope.org. That's nsbhealthpreventionbrw@north-slope.org, or by phone at 907-855-8501. Please note that we record our episodes in advance, so the answer to your question will air a couple of weeks later. Our borough-wide Ask for Help mental health tour with special guests Mark Tamalea, Derrick Moore, Jesus Vera, Edward Bryan, and Elaine DeMello is ongoing. The tour will include daytime student workshops on suicide prevention, sober living, leadership, and healthy relationships. A brief community coalition meeting followed by suicide prevention training for our coalition members, and an evening community resource carnival open for all ages. Come connect with local organizations, enjoy activities, and discover resources to support strong and healthy families. The remaining tour dates are as follows: September 11th, Cocktobic, September 12th, Nooksit, September 15th, Point Lay, September 16th, Point Hope, September 17th, Hobson Middle School and Apollock Elementary, September 18th, Unuktuvik Pass. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We hope you found it insightful and learned something that can help you on your own health and wellness journey. If you'd like to catch the replay of this episode or previous episodes, you can visit the North Slope Borough Health and Social Services YouTube page. Until next time, Koyanakbuk.